Hey everyone, welcome to Office Hours with Cloud Posse, where we discuss the latest DevOps news, AWS announcements, and Terraform insights, all sourced from our sweetops community, plus a live Q&A you can't find anywhere else. It is January 7th, 2026. I'm your host, Eric Osterman. Happy New Year's, everyone. Welcome back. Real quick, I'm the founder and CEO of Cloud Posse. Cloud Posse sells AWS reference architectures that get you production ready in just 2 weeks. So if you're curious to learn more about that, head over to cloudposse.com. Now, how can you maximize today's session? First off, our format is informal. You can engage as much as you'd like and ask questions. And if you're curious about any of our open source tools like Atmos, this is a great place to ask. And for those of you on the recording, we host these calls live. Don't miss out. You can join us by registering at cloudposse.com/office hours. Again, cloudposse.com/office hours. Now, I do have one ask. If you find any portion of today's session valuable, share it with your team. Just head over to youtube.com/cloudposse, where we'll be posting a recording of this session in just a few hours. So here's what caught my attention this week. First is the ACM, the OG news source for peer-reviewed papers on computer science topics, algorithms, AI, all that kind of things. They have changed their business model now, and instead of relying on contributions from individual users, they're going institutional more. So institutions that publish to ACM are paying the fees uh, for access to publish to the platform. And then they also have like some other editions of ACM that allow you to have more advanced tools on top of the platform. But reading articles now is open to everyone. No more of this, like somebody has shared an ACM article with you. So that was this announcement here. And we'll be sharing the links in the Slack channel after this. I've seen this like repeated a dozen times or more on LinkedIn over the past week or two. It's a really sad graph because anybody who's got their start in the last 10 years probably was using one of the Stack Exchange sites, Stack Overflow being the one that everyone knows the most. This graph shows the number of questions being asked on the site, and you can just see how remarkable it is from the introduction of basically ChatGPT, and then obviously just continued downward trend as everybody's moving to one of the many alternatives, Grok, ChatGPT, and obviously Claude Code and Cursor, etc. Too many options. So this is interesting because this probably seeded a lot of the knowledge on these AI systems. So it'll be interesting to see where new knowledge keeps coming from, or it'll be basically, you know, I guess AI is learning from AIs and conclusions that have been made from those. Any thoughts on what's going on with Stack Exchange or other commentary? All right. Next is a small announcement that the GPU prices on AWS just went up by 15%. Now, that alone, is newsworthy, but why I think it's more newsworthy or more interesting is because AWS never raises prices. There are a few examples where, like, they introduced extended support, LTS support for EKS. That makes sense, right? You are capitalizing on, enterprises predominantly who are not upgrading their clusters, and they rather pay a premium to have LTS support on that cluster. This is, of course, pointing to the scarcity of GPUs and I guess a reality that they had to, increase costs for capacity reservations. Any thoughts on this one? And again, this is just rare for Amazon to raise prices on anything, so I thought that was interesting. So, what is it called? K Keiko or something? Or what is Amazon's new agentic editor that they released towards the end of last year? It's like another VS Code fork.
Cairo.
Uh, Cairo, that's what it was. Yeah, yeah. Thank you. And one of the things that it popularized was spec-driven development. A pattern that's worked really well for anybody doing vibe coding is, you know, going through the iterative process of developing, for example, a PRD or a spec, developing a plan from that and having the AI implement that based on the specification or the requirements document and so forth. And that's what we've been doing with Atmos. Now, Cairo did that as a feature built into the product, which was nice. But that doesn't leave the rest of us with anything. And GitHub, vis-a-vis Microsoft, has come out with SpecKit. I forget if we talked about it on Office Hours before, but it caught my attention again. What's pretty cool about it is, first of all, if you adopt SpecKit, you can use it probably with any one of the agents that you use today. Second is once you run it and initialize your project with it, you get your slash commands for your respective agent that work with this. So this is something I'd really like to try out on some of the next features inside of Atmos and see if it's a step up from what we've been doing with our more informal PRD driven approach. Has anyone taken a look at SpecKit or is using it? Just a announcement. I guess the writing was on the wall. There was just like Kubernetes has officially sunset or archived the ingress controller, the Nginx ingress controller. They are now sunsetting the Kubernetes dashboard, which was quite nice in its day and time when it came out as a way of understanding the cluster without dropping to the command line. One of the challenges was always how do you authenticate with the dashboard? And the answer was almost always, use kubectl proxy. And I didn't like that answer personally. Well, there's been, I guess a headlamp is its replacement here, which is the next gen, maybe Kubernetes dashboard. I think we have mentioned headlamp before on office hours, but I forgot about it until now. Any comments on that? So this next one was trending on Reddit, and it caught my attention because I've always um, I've loved the ease of use of Argo CD, and I think Argo CD gives you the best deployment experience for Kubernetes. Also, it's nice because it introduces like this concept of an immutability firewall. So every change has to go through some version control system, and then Argo CD, reconciles that and makes it happen. This is nice because then your CI system is never directly connected to your clusters. Your clusters don't even need to be publicly accessible. They just need to be able to hit the Argo CD. Argo CD just needs to be able to hit your version control endpoint. But one of the things that I've always scratched my head over is if you're doing anything more serious inside of Kubernetes and deploying it with Argo CD, you really have no idea what your change set is going to do. One of the nice things with Terraform, I think, has always been that you have a plan of what's going to happen. And especially if you want to give up more control or speed up the velocity of changes, reduce the risk of change, giving developers and the people reviewing the developer's code the ability to see what the impact of a change is imperative, I would say. I would also say it's one of the reasons why we still gravitate a lot towards using Terraform for a lot of things that we do deploy to Kubernetes instead of Argo CD for that reason. So this is a small utility written in Go that operates on Argo CD webhooks, I believe, and is ultimately able to post a diff as a comment on your pull request so you can understand the impact of a change. This to me gives you the best of both worlds. The very convenient and secure way of deploying and synchronizing applications on Argo CD, plus the visibility in your pull request to see what the impact of that change will be. Has anybody seen this before? Is using it? All right. Last, or not last, but another one, Pipe Dash was also something that I think we mentioned previously on Office Hours. They just shipped a new release that allows you to self-host it through a Docker container in addition to the desktop app. Um, Especially if you're like in an enterprise organization or you are undergoing a migration maybe from Jenkins and GitLab and consolidating on GitHub or GitHub Actions or maybe going the other direction. Pipedash is a centralized dashboard to stay on top of all your pipelines. And the other problem is like if you're using GitHub and GitHub Actions, one of the annoying things is just how to organize all your pipelines if you have a lot of them. So this looked like an interesting tool. I haven't tried it out myself yet, but this is the kind of thing. Obviously, it's probably vibe coded, but vibe coding has reduced the cost of software so low, making these kinds of products possible, and that's nice. All right. This one caught me off guard, but I thought it's interesting for a couple of reasons. So we talked about towards the end of last year that Docker Hub has released a new hardened image repository or way of having hardened images. These are basically CVE-free images. Now, the pricing, I don't know if it was ever made public. It was definitely behind contact sales button, and uh, and they quickly pivoted from that model. So instead, now what they're doing is making DHI, Docker hardened images, free for everyone. And that really got me scratching my head. Like, wait, clearly this was an enterprise play. Clearly this is a play for, specifically companies who can afford to pay for images. There are a lot of AMI, hardened AMIs, there's CIS, hardened AMIs you can pay for, and it's a business model. It makes sense. So I assumed that was the angle they were going. So it was a curveball when now I saw, wait, this is going to be free now? How are they going to monetize that? Well, the way I understand it is they're taking a slightly different approach, and I think it's clever. Allow okay, and this is my interpretation of it. I don't know this for certain, but this is how I interpret what they're doing. You can basically get the latest images hardened, but if you need LTS support, yeah, that's where they charge you. That's where they get you. Totally fair. I'm not criticizing, but I was looking at where's the catch because nowhere in here did I understand what the catch is, but that's what I understand to be the catch. And going back to my announcement about AWS never raising prices, and then until the recent one for GPUs, and then how they introduced long-term support for Kubernetes, that was a great way to capitalize on the people who the pain of upgrading is greater than the pay of just paying for long-term support. So that's what I think Docker is doing here with these hardened images is sure, we'll get you onto those images. They're free. Take the candy. And then, when your company does an upgrade and now there's no more patches for that and you require, updated versions of that software for compliance reasons, for example, then you can pony up and pay for that. I think it makes sense. It allows developers to operate in a safer manner by using Docker images that have been hardened. And for those companies that need long-term support, there's an option. This is an interesting business model. Curious about this. What do you guys think? The other trend we've seen is, of course, what is it? Bitnami, right? They stopped publishing Docker images. Charts are free, everyone can have them, but we are not publishing version Docker images anymore. Um, Another way of monetizing. I think gravitational teleport did something similar. It's open source. You can build and compile it yourself, but if you want binaries, yeah, you got to subscribe. That's all there. And then the last one is something, just since I know not everyone has been on office hours over the past couple of weeks, we have published our public roadmap for Atmos uh, to kind of show the trajectory, where we've come from, where we're headed, what's shipped, what hasn't shipped. Full disclosure, got some early feedback. Some of these things we've shipped recently uh, need a little bit more QA. So we are also releasing an update to the roadmap today or tomorrow, showing the relative maturity of features that are shipped, and allowing you to filter for those. Also, we are going to be more transparent in the Atmos CLI as well. We're going to call things that are recently shipped experimental. Net new features will be considered experimental until they've burned in and been validated by us, for example, in our customer engagements, in our reference architecture, and by community members as yourself. So what that means in the Atmos CLI, when you run experimental commands, there'll be a little toast that displays just saying that this command is experimental. You can disable it. You can disable the notification, and you'll be able to also error if you're using anything experimental. You can configure the behavior on that so you don't accidentally introduce experimental things in production or something. So before I re-review some of the announcements, any feedback on experimental feature feature flagging in Atmos or how that'll work? All right. So two things that have, I believe, shipped in the last week or so, and I'm not sure if I mentioned it, but is one is toolchain management. So Atmos can now manage the tools and the versions of those tools concurrently installed for all of your components in your stacks. So if you depend on different versions of OpenTofu, or you want to, you know, uh, test out newer versions in lower environments, you can do that very easily now, natively in Atmos. You don't need TFEnv, TofuEnv, any one of the 2000 version managers out there. You can just use Atmos now for that. It's built on top of the registry for Aqua, which is a mature package ecosystem, allowing you to install lots of binaries. So you can install things, any simple binary package distributed through GitHub is supported this way, or some HTTP endpoint. So you'll be able, with toolchain management, you can now install uh, actually Atmos itself this way. We added an interesting feature to Atmos, so Atmos itself can version manage itself and run different versions of Atmos. This is helpful if you want to see if something is a regression, was working in an older version. You can do that now very easily using Atmos itself. Um, you can, if you're depending on like TF-lint or any of the other static analysis tools for Terraform, you can install those very easily now just using the toolchain capability. Dev containers was something we introduced to make it easy to run interactive shells in containers. This is convenient if you don't want developers to have to install the full tool chain. If you're using Geodesic, another one of our products, which is an interactive shell, this works well with that. One of the most requested features in Atmos for the last few years has been something akin to the source parameter in Terraform modules. So one of the nice things with Terraform, right, is you can run Terraform init, and it goes and downloads all your module sources and your providers, and then you can run Terraform. Atmos took okay, so and then one step back. So the problem has always been that root modules have no concept of source. You can't source the root module itself. The root module has to just exist. Uh, the solution to that we saw was the vendoring, which was the ability to copy in locally that source into your repo. And that, still a first class concept in Atmos. But many users wanted over the years to have the ability to just define a source and have it vendor just in time as they run those commands. And that's what we've implemented now with sources in Atmos. So if you have a component like a VPC, the source can be specified like this, and now it'll just work. Uh, Bear in mind, I think there are trade-offs. One of the cool things we discovered through agentic programming with Atmos and our reference architecture and customers is that vendoring is awesome for AI agents. They love all the context, having everything in your repositories. Um, but it also adds a lot of noise, a lot of unnecessary files committed to your repo. So maybe this is a happy medium. The other cool thing we did with Source is we added the CRUD commands. So you can, let's see if it's in this announcement or I have to go to the docs. Yeah, so you can update your sources by pulling them. You can delete them, refresh them, and so forth. Some things to look forward to in Atmos. Hopefully by, I would say by mid-February at this point, maybe. Maybe end of January if we're lucky, will be native CI/CD support inside of Atmos itself. The idea here being so you don't need any other actions to call Atmos. You can just run Atmos as you would locally. It'll work perfectly well in CI, but it'll be CI aware, so it can post job summaries, comment on pull requests, post status checks. So native integration and abstract it away so it'll be pluggable. We're going to launch with GitHub Actions because that's what we use, but we'll accept pull requests to contribute like Azure DevOps, GitLab support, etc. Since we've generalized the interface for that. Lots of good stuff, more than I have time to go over. Definitely check out the roadmap if you're interested. And we are always looking for feedback, positive or negative. If there's something, if you discover a problem, open an issue, and we will promptly resolve that. Any questions on that before we go over to Q&A? Okay. Any other announcements that you guys caught your attention this past week?
Not a new announcement for me, but I've been using Oh My OpenCode and it's been phenomenal.
What's that? Oh
It's
my
yeah,
code.
yep, that one. So I think Conductor is still probably the best for parallel threads for feature development,
Mhm.
but when you're trying to build when you're for your main task or whatever your main focus is on, this seems to be so far my favorite.
Mm.
Um, So setup is real easy. It uses Claude Code, uh, OpenAI's Codex or ChatGPT for planning.
Mm.
It uses Gemini if you do front end development, and then I suppose there's a Copilot integration in there as well. Don't know what it primarily uses that for, but you can configure it to use certain ones, but it has some sane defaults. It also has context plugins or MCPs,
Mhm.
grep. So it comes in with batteries included. And really what it's good at is you say, I want this. And ChatGPT will come up with, what do you really mean by that? And that's in the plan. And then it passes it over to Claude to actually execute. So
Mm.
overall, it's been really nice to work with. And then the to-do list of what it's trying to do is also really good, and you can see it on the little on the right panel.
Is it a desktop app or a console app?
Uh,
Can't tell by this if this is a terminal
it's
window or an
it's a
app.
yeah, it's a CLI. So you run OpenCode kind of like you'd run Claude
Mhm,
CLI, and then it has this like nice little panel that shows, and
mhm.
you edit through there. So
Does it also support workspace management?
as in like multiple,
Oh, creating Git work trees?
I haven't tried.
Mm.
Um, yeah, it's very it's directory aware. So I've had it resume a session from the same directory after closing it and reopening it, and it kept the same context, which was great. Um,
Mhm.
the other thing that was interesting was I had it work in multiple directories and was able to open several different PRs from one PR opening several others in different repositories. Um, I don't know about different work trees though for feature development across multiple different features.
Yeah.
Be
To
interesting
me,
to see.
that's been one of the biggest pain points with just like using Claude by itself was I guess it's pretty straightforward. Well, I think now, one could probably just create a skill. Hey, you know, create a skill that, creates the work tree before doing any work, and it's probably fine.
Yeah, this has just been really nice for it seems like it's just got a lot of really good defaults kind of embedded in, and I think that's what their goal was that and multi I guess multi-model or multi-agent. I don't know. I guess I don't know the right term, but
Yeah.
keeping it across multiple so that you can really use what they're all best at for that purpose.
Conductor could do that too. But yeah.
Conductor Conductor, you can't switch agent or model in between a workspace.
Okay. Is
So
that
if
true?
you so if you want to use ChatGPT for planning, what I do then for Conductor is I go to ChatGPT on the web and say, "Here's my problem.
Okay.
Help me solve it," and then copy and paste it all in. But this is nice because I just hit tab and say, "Go ahead, implement," and it goes from
But
plan mode to implement.
th- I'm a little confused. Like, because I see a little selector on for the language model. I keep it typically just on Opus 4.5, but I do see all the other models there in the chat box to select.
So yeah, so while your work tree or once your workspace for Conductor is created, before any prompt is sent, you can switch to whatever you want, Opus 4.5, GPT 5.2. As soon as you type a message though and it starts planning or running, you can't switch it anymore.
No, no, it lets me switch. Yeah,
Maybe I need to restart. Maybe they added that.
yeah. All right. But anyway, small
Yeah.
points. What's interesting about this though is like what I've been wanting to do lately is um, I have a son. I got to go do some other things, and I guess yeah, bad dad. I should put my phone down. But I just really wish I could advance it a little bit. When I hear the ding upstairs, I just want to I want to tell it to do the next thing. Um, and
That's
this week, I've seen a couple posts, one on Hacker News, LinkedIn, etc., where people are using Claude Code in the terminal and then SSHing into their workstation and running it that way. What were you going to say?
this tool on my OpenCode. It has like self-continuation. I don't know if it's a skill or how they embedded it in, but it pretty often will just say, no, don't stop and prompt it if you want me to continue. Just go ahead until it's complete, which is pretty nice as well.
Yeah, yeah. Though, what happens after that, right? Like nothing's ever done, right? There's always the next thing you're going to do after that.
Yeah. It's been pretty good from what I've used. I'm really enjoying it. And it uses, Claude and ChatGPT and we don't really use Gemini or whatever it's
Yeah.
called, but it's nice
Did
that it uses the tools that we use. So
did you see the first thing I talked about, Spec Kit? Have you taken a look at that? It'd be
no,
interesting if you combine that with what you're
I was
doing.
wondering if that's a MCP, it'd be interesting to add that to this. And have the general workflow be ChatGPT generates that spec kit. Well, I guess it wouldn't be. I don't know if spec kit. I wasn't fully paying attention. Does it use a model that you select, or does it?
I don't know the intricate details other than it's designed to work with every major system out there, including Cloud Code, Codex, etc. And it also introduces new slash commands in whichever agentic editor you're using.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, I'll check it out. Maybe OpenCode can add it for me. That'd be pretty cool.
yeah, try that. All right. Any questions we can get answered today on office hours? Elvis just shared something in the Zoom chat here. What is this? Tonkotsu. Stop coding, start leading. Manage entire team of coding agents from a doc. Yeah, that sounds interesting. Huh. Huh. Elvis, can you share anything that you found interesting using it so far? Integrates with linear. Yeah, seems like a, kind of spec-driven approach as well. I'm gonna try that. Cool. Any other cool tools you can nerd snipe me with? All right. Questions? Last call. Any questions today? All right. Well, that's all I have on the agenda today. So if no other questions, maybe we'll break a little bit early, give you back 30 minutes of your day, and see you back next week. Yeah, I think so. Jeremy says that everyone's still busy after the holidays. Happy New Year's, by the way, Jeremy.
Yeah, thanks. Happy New Year's to you too.
Thank you. Well, everyone, have a good rest of your afternoon. Talk to you later. Bye. I forgot my little outro. I guess because we went a little out of the way here, but what is it? My outro. Here we go. Yeah. So thanks everyone for your time today. We'll be posting a recording of this session to our YouTube channel. You can find it at youtube.com/cloudposse, where we'll post the recording in a few hours. If you ever need any support, if you're using like our Cloud Posse, Terraform modules, Atmos, or things like that, we offer support. That's how we, sustain our open source and how, how all this works. Go to cloudposse.com/support for information on that. If you want to get more involved in our community, we have our Slack community. Go to cloudposse.com Slack to join there. And if you haven't yet registered for office hours, just go to cloudposse.com/office hours, enter your email. You'll get an invitation to our weekly office hours. Thanks, everyone. Take care.